So Grant, over to you. Can you explain to us what problem were you trying to solve at First Rate Exchange Services?
I think it's probably back to Mark's point about Wonga. It starts with what's the conversion rate, what's the dropout rate. Originally on site work, so desktop, and then later in mobile sphere. We were finding and not able to fully understand why we were having issues with the customer experience on our online solution, and then latterly in mobile. We've probably had a relationship with Tealium since about 2013, which is actually before I joined the company. So it's not just my team. The whole point about this kind of exercise, and something I'd certainly recommend to all of you, this needs to permeate across the country. So there's an IT piece involved, there's marketing involved. My role is actually digital transformation and strategy. So it really permeates throughout the company, and everybody gets involved and is able to use different elements of the information. I think what the guys here ran through beautifully. It tells you it is very much about the management capability and the management opportunity right throughout your business.
And I know one of the big problems that a lot of our members have is how to decide who to work with from all of the companies out there. So, Grant, can you tell us, how did you go about choosing Decibel and Tealium out of all of the... did you organise a day? Did you go and visit hundreds of vendors? How did you approach that?
Yeah. Throw darts at the ball. No, you go out, obviously. You find out from... colleagues and companies in your network, who's doing really interesting stuff. And then it's very much about a cultural fit as well, because your business has a culture of its own. Your business is at a stage in its development. Sometimes it's not the best solution to go sometimes to the most complex or sophisticated piece. You need to have an organization who can be very sophisticated, but who can actually help you and understand that you're maybe at the bottom level of this technology and you want to grow into it. And to be very fair to these guys, they were absolutely brilliant at helping us, not making us feel stupid, and recognizing that we had some real challenges, but there were solutions out there. So it was a really constructive process. There's a formal part to it. You go through an RFP, so there's a whole commercial piece that needs to be debated, and that's fine. You do that, and that's good commercial discipline. But on a personal level, I just wish people would sometimes just go out there, have really good, honest conversations with people, be honest with the partners that you're going to come on board with, because they can only help you if you're being straight with them, and they don't come in after the event trying to fix stuff that they're not really there to fix.
Okay. And when you had chosen some potential companies to work with, how did it start off with you all? I mean, did you do a proof of concept, try and get this investment? How did you kind of get going and get that buy-in and that investment that you needed?
Yes, proof of concept, absolutely. I mean, that's the conventional way of doing it, but it's probably better to look at it like a series of mini projects. So just do little small things that you know are broken or are fairly comprehensively on fire, usually. And help to put them out and get them to a better place. So, yes, you would define them as proofs of concept, of course you would. But I prefer to look at them like little mini projects that are really painful, preventing customers from doing the stuff that they want to do, and then actually change that to making it easy.
And for the rest of you on the panel, do you have anything to share around how you kind of get your customers started, and, for example, small projects, implementations?
I think, Emma, you're good for this.
Yeah, so I think it depends on the maturity of the customer. So we have some coming to us that already maybe have a similar solution, they've got a more basic solution, they're coming up against roadblocks, and they understand the problems that they're facing, and they're much more developed in where they are in knowing their needs. And then you have organisations that are much kind of less mature, if you like, and they're looking for us to guide them on maybe where they should be focusing. And they might take a bit more of a land and expand approach. So they might look at a target market and just start there and then ramp up and try to get buy-in from the organisation. And it's really important at that point to be able to show the return on investment and tell that story within the organisation. So getting and investing in technology that you can action off the back of is really important to be able to show that.
And Khal, did you have anything to share?
The only thing I would add is as you said about having an honest conversation, and that is the only way. You have to go in and just say, so why haven't you been able to do this without? What stops you? And sometimes it's consulting, and sometimes it's counselling, and just finding the people who are trying to affect it to change, and just listen to them, explain why they struggle, and then work out how you can help them.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And can you all collectively explain, so what work have you done together and what were the outcomes of these projects?
Can we start?
Do you want to start, Grant? Say,
What's your project?
Websites and mobile experiences that are a damn sight better is the bottom line. But it's a real journey. I mean, we've been working with Tealium for 7 years.
Almost as long as Tealium's existed.
yeah. So, it's been, and that's a very happy coincidence that it's happened that way. But for us, we were genuinely struggling. We were having real problems with dropout rates, with page rendering, with tagging, and all sorts of areas. And we were just trying to wrestle it to the ground and say, let's make this sensible. And, back to that honest conversation of being able to say, we're a bit crap at this at the moment, and we want to be an awful lot better. We know we can be better. We've got people in our organization who can help us to get to that place. We just need the right partner to help us to do that. And these guys very much proved to be that.
I think having an integrations mindset with any partner is really vital to the success and longevity of any sort of relationship like this. Decibel and Tealium work very closely together. The two products are able to feed metrics into one another quite comprehensively. So when we're looking to present a holistic view of what's going on, not just in one platform, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, actually having some way to bring all that into one place and derive those key insights without having to hop around systems makes the process a lot easier as well.
Absolutely.
And Grant, from the work that you've done so far, is there any advice you'd offer, anything you'd do differently, anything that went wrong?
Probably stuff I can't admit to.
We're here for you.
Yeah, plenty went wrong. Yeah, absolutely, plenty went wrong. When you
get it off your chest.
Yeah, well, and to be fair, it's not so much these guys. It's more internal stuff. When you're trying to get support for making changes, it can spin off into quite emotional areas like brand experience and so on, which is a very tough area. That needs to be good. And I'm not dissing any of the work that the guys from HSBC have been talking about. It is really important. But what you're trying to do in the context of customer experiences and what a lot of our guys are trying to do is really grown-sheet boring stuff. A lot of what we work on is an application form, endlessly. And that's what we look at. We look at why people are dropping out. We look at why browsers aren't rendering properly. That's the stuff that this is all about. And that's why the partnership that these guys have in terms of sharing data is really important, because when we get the reports back, it's a bit like my old school reports. It's like, yeah, you could actually try harder. That was really stupid what you did with that browser or whatever, So you've just got to learn. And because there's a lot of trust, I think, in between the organizations, you can say that stuff without people getting really upset, and falling out. I don't know, you guys, what do you think?
And just before I come on to ask you about other projects you've been working on, Grant, can you tell us what's coming next at First Rate, if you're able to, in this area of using AI, ML for improving your customer journeys and customer experience? Any exciting projects in the pipeline?
We've launched one of our clients, Post Office, has launched a travel app in the past year. So we're looking in collaborating with Post Office in how that app might develop over time. It's currently very much about our travel card and insurance, but I'm sure there's going to be a number of other interesting areas that could come into play. Maybe helping, they've got a passport service, for example. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could go into that app, and hopefully it will build into a bigger travel solution, of which we will be a smaller part. And we work with other clients as well. We work with John Lewis.
Okay, excellent. And the team from Decibel and Tealium, can you share with us some examples of the work you've been doing with other clients? Because as we discussed in our sort of preparation calls, First Rate are more at the beginning stages of the journey, and there's clients they work with at a far more advanced stage. So it'd be useful to hear some of those examples. Who wants to begin?
I can begin, sure. So I think, as Kristian alluded to when he was kind of presenting that kind of graph thing, where the maturity kind of starts lower, and I don't think we should kind of underestimate the value that clients that aren't that digitally mature, that are just thinking about machine learning and AI, get from implementing some kind of low-level strategy. So if we start with the problem, like Grant has alluded to, is, customers that come to us that are a little bit less mature, they're often looking for those quick wins. Where are the biggest issues? What should I be focusing on? Why are people dropping off? Where do people experience frustration? And to take an example of how, if you didn't have an AI, you might try and answer that, you might use session replay. So session replay, for those of you that don't know, is kind of visitor sessions, kind of looking over the shoulder of the visitor and watching how they navigate. Really insightful in uncovering why things are happening, but very manual unless you have any kind of AI behind it. So it would take a team of analysts years, or a year maybe, to watch a day's worth of sessions if you've got millions of website visitors. So how we've helped customers overcome that is by building machine learning that in a few seconds looks at how those visitors are interacting, watches every session, and finds these kind of signals and commonalities between them, and can detect things like frustration and confusion. And that then really kind of points the team into, this is where you need to focus, this is what you need to prioritize. And they can go back to the business and use that as evidence and say, this is what we need to work on. And although that is still what we would call digitally mature, we see a huge amount of that being used day to day with Decibel. When you move up a stage, you've got a client like TUI, for example, and they are looking at, how do we measure experience? We've got a lot from those short-term tactical wins. We've seen high ROI with that, but we're looking at implementing more of a kind of customer-focused strategy, and we need metrics to be able to measure the success of that. So another output of our machine learning is that, along with analysing each session, we output a score, a digital experience score, that looks at the quality of that, but then aggregates it. So once you've aggregated individual session scores, a bit like a Net Promoter Score, but rather than asking the customer, it's kind of automatic, looking at how they interacted, you can start to embed that as an executive level metric to benchmark, measure change, drive investment. And then you've got the kind of stage beyond that, which we're just seeing customers getting into, which is actually taking the metrics. Okay, so you found a way to measure experience. That might be through a DXS, it might be through an NPS, it might be through all these different ways, online, offline, and starting to join those together to build this kind of 360 view of the customer, I think we would call it as a marketing term. And that's where something like Tealium can come in with that kind of customer data platform, single view of the customer. What are the quality of experience across all the touch points? How do we understand that? And then actually looking at building some machine learning in-house yourselves, building a predictive model based on all that data. So, we see it right from that low-level issue resolution right up into driving a digital strategy, measuring the quality of that. And a huge cultural change comes with that, right? Because actually non-digital employees often don't understand the importance of digital experience or the offline
Emma, can I just
experience.
check, do you help your clients with that cultural piece, or do you partner with somebody else? Because we were talking a lot today around, it's okay, the technology, we can find the solution, but how do you actually get the cultural buy-in? How's your involvement there?
There's no hard and fast answer. We've actually got, I mentioned TUI, a really nice kind of case with them where actually they look at the visual data within Decibel, and because it's not charts and tables, it's very easy to understand. They found more people were looking at that data, and the digital experience score was becoming, we've talked about joining up siloed teams. The digital experience score was something that people understood how to affect, because they could look at the visuals and the detractors and understand, okay, this is what I need to do to improve that DXS. So by investing in data that your teams can understand and action and communicate and talk through, that helps to kind of overcome some of the silos where you've not got disparate metrics in different departments that people don't really understand what to do off the back of them.
And Khal, do you have any examples of the work that you've been involved in?
Yeah, so I'll throw a completely different industry out there. And this is the car windscreen replacement industry. It's a big, exciting one we all hope to get into. And this is kind of the Dutch equivalent of Autoplus. And they said to us, well, we've got a really weird business model, because you can't send someone an email and go, you haven't broken a window, have you? Do you want us to come and fix it? You can't. It's too random. You have to wait for them to get in touch. And secondly is that anyone getting in touch is already having a bad day because they've broken a window and they've got to have it fixed. So you can't reach out to them. When they get in touch with you, they're already really, really pissed off already. They said, and we have a bit of a problem, which is we come out and we fix it and we bring the tools or even a brand new windscreen to you. And we don't take any money until we finish it. So they have a really big problem with no-shows. People who book an appointment, forget, don't turn up, working late, kids are sick, whatever. Now, well, we've got some ideas around the business, and this is what you mentioned about like digital people and not just digital people. They don't understand the importance of the experience, and that's so true. But what they do have is a lot of kind of institutional knowledge. And we said, well, why don't people turn up? And they said, well, I think it's about the value of the car. If it's an expensive car, you want it fixed soon. If it's not, you don't. But you might have an expensive car and not care about it. You might have a cheap car that you love. And someone else said, well, I think it's about if you book an appointment in 2 days' time, if you want it fixed really soon, it's annoying you. Whereas if you say, yeah, come in 4 weeks' time, you don't really care. And all these different things. Well, machine learning could do that. So we started trying to predict why doesn't someone turn up? And what can we do ahead of them to either get them to, or at least make it so easy for them to say, oh yeah, reschedule, sorry, I've forgotten. And then we realised, well, how do you predict a negative? And you need a data point into the machine learning that says, this person did not turn up, but they only had an appointment completed. So we have to kind of build an inverse system whereby when somebody doesn't turn up, that gets thrown into their data set. So you think, you get a weird problem in a weird industry, you try and solve it, and then you go, well, actually, we still need the offline data points to be considered.
Yeah, absolutely. Rubbish in, rubbish out, as they say with data. You need to make sure you're actually putting quality data in, otherwise you can't get the insights out the other end.
This is it.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's some really interesting case studies there. And just for the final part of this panel, what's coming next? I'd like an answer from all of you, please. Grant, you've kind of already given yours, so I think we'll let you off the hook.
Yeah.
But Kristian, what's coming next in the area of AI and ML for?
I think the big thing really isn't about it's not about AI itself. We have to make sure that we're not talking about AI like it's the miracle cure for all of our problems. I think what the world is getting better at is recognizing the valuable use of AI to really solve those problems that are causing us frustration day to day. I see the biggest place where the next level of this is going to happen is in more personalized experiences based on what is actually going on in someone's experience at the time. For example, if someone's having a terrible experience, what can you action to ensure that they stay engaged with you as a customer and come back to do the repeat business? Do you do a targeted campaign that focuses on them at the moment they're having the problem? Do you have pop-ups to them? Do you have bots that interact with this data in a way that makes a qualified judgment that, this person's a churn risk, how do we bring them back? So I see that as being the next level of this, where we start to hyper-personalize and to a much more granular level with the actual reactions to those experiences. I see the days where the blanket email campaign will kind of die, and we'll be sending everyone their own version based on what they care about from the data we have with them.
Okay, excellent. And Emma?
I guess similar to Kristian, we work in the same place, so we have the same ideas about, I think, when I talk to customers day to day, the idea of being able to understand the customer better is great, and that kind of predictive element of what they might do. I think where they get really scared is, well, what's the content that we offer? Like, how do we match the knowing what they might do with, like, what do we show them? Like, how do we actually cater for that? Like, do we have to have 8 different blogs that we could do? But how do we actually create the right thing for them? And I think that's where a lot of people are scared to kind of explore that further. So it's about getting the right data, getting the right metrics, understanding it, but knowing what you're going to do with it after that as well, and how you measure the success of it as well.
The institutional trust needs to be there as well. I think we as humans are still naturally distrustful of what an AI suggests. And as we were discussing in that room, AIs can be biased as well. If you code your algorithms with a specific outcome in mind too tightly, you actually end up only answering the question with the way that you wanted to have it answered in the first place and learn absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's like people sometimes say to us, can we tell your algorithms what we want it to do?
No.
And we say, well, this is an
not the
objective
point.
measure of experience. We were saying in our group earlier, people take a Net Promoter Score survey off a page that's performing badly so that their scores go up. And it's about really trusting the data, making sure, like you said, it's clean, that you understand it, that the business trusts it, and letting that, as Kristian said, help that guide you, but still use your brains. You're not machines. Interpret it in the right way and action it sensibly.
Great. And Khal, have you got any wild predictions for the future?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you guys just said what you did, because I think the thing that we're going to have to start to tackle now is the morality of machine learning algorithms. Not just can we use it, but should we? You can think of a situation whereby, I don't know, a gambling company says we want to encourage more people to make another bet or spend more. You go, well, actually, is that okay to do? And where's the line between encouraging someone to do something they might have done and an efficiency versus sort of really getting into the grey area? You hear now about sort of Cambridge Analytica, where literally encouraging people not to vote because they thought they could do that, or changing the way they do it. You go, it gets a bit Jeff Goldblum, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think that's got to be something that, as the people who are pushing this and starting to do it, if we don't say to ourselves, is this okay to do, who else will?
Data isn't intrinsically moral. It's what we do as people with that data that causes these problems.
Oh, we'll be fine then. Humans are great.
That's such a great track record.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We'll leave it on that point, and I'll pass back to Clive. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.